Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about the concept of centrism lately, because the nature of this video podcast is that I'm talking to a lot of people with a lot of different ideas, and I'm feeling very centristy. I'm feeling very open-minded, talk to everybody, hear out everybody's ideas lately. And it's been making me think about how I think people's conceptions of a centrist, they, first of all, they differ from one another, and second of all, I think that we're lumping together things that are really different things into one thing. So I've kind of broken it down. I made a series of little spectrums here. I've kind of broken it down into multiple parts because I really think it's not any one thing. So first thing right up top here, propensity for violence. I definitely think that there are some people who conflate moderate politics with a strong distaste for violence or even just disruptive protest or action of any kind, right? Um, and they also conflate radical belief systems with more violence. And I think those are completely separate things. The second one here, Overton window, right? That's a term that you might not be familiar with. The Overton window is just the range of acceptable ideas in a political discourse. So you could say that Nazism and communism are both not in the Overton window, right? One's far right, the other's far left. Neither of them are socially acceptable to talk about in polite company. They're both pretty extreme. So would other ideas that maybe don't fit super into the left right divide, like anarcho capitalism or being just very, very vegan. I also think could be an idea that's maybe far outside of the Overton window, despite not super being connected to any one political group. And I think it's a mistake to conflate people with beliefs that are either strange or far in one direction or another with propensity for violence. I don't think those are the same thing at all. In fact, I think there's a very good chance that sometimes they are the opposite. I know, for example, some communists who criticized, recently there was a self immolation, right? A man self immolated in the name of Palestine. And there were a lot of people on the far left saying we shouldn't be encouraging this. This is idealistic to be encouraging people to kill themselves in the name of a higher cause when we could just be fighting for the higher cause, hoping to educate people, so on and so forth. Similarly, there was people on the far left, myself included, who criticize like blocking traffic. In my neighborhood, we had a group that blocked 5 o'clock traffic for climate change demonstration. The message that sends to people is that climate change is your fault, that it's your fault for driving home from work in a car. And I don't really think that's true, and I don't think it's the right message to send. I don't think guilt tripping people is a solution to any of this. So that's the separation there between the Overton window and like propensity for violence, right? But then there's other things too. Willingness to converse, right? Willingness to talk to people who disagree with you or platform people who disagree with you. Because those can kind of be separate things. I think, again, conflating this with a simple, extreme, moderate divide doesn't make any sense. Because I know a lot of very, very moderate, vote blue no matter who type people who would never speak to a Republican. And I know a lot of people who are like communists who are going to Trump rallies and hanging out with people and having a barbecue and getting to know them and debating and conversing politics. So I don't think willingness to converse can it all be lumped in with Overton window? And then down here I have willingness to compromise. Now this is a slightly different one. You would think, again, willingness to compromise would be the same as willingness to converse, but in practice, I don't think it is. Um, I mostly include this because I think that there's politicians who are all about either winning an election or winning public opinion over, or pragmatically getting as much policy passed as possible, kind of regardless of what the policy is, just trying to expand legislative capacity, right? And those people, um, I don't like them. No, somebody like Joe Biden, for example, I think there's a difference between somebody who at least I get the impression is being shaped entirely by the forces around him, and who is willing to change his opinion on a moment's notice if it benefits him in some way. I think there's a big difference between that and having somebody who just believes very moderate things. I actually have a lot of respect for people who wholeheartedly believe in moderate things. I think a great example of this is the healthcare debate, actually. I think a lot of the Democratic candidates who supported a public option for Medicare, like Joe Biden, um, a lot of them, I really didn't get the impression that they believed that that was the best, most efficient policy solution to the problem. I think what they believed was that single payer was the best, most efficient policy solution to the problem, and that they wanted that, and that that was never going to pass, that was never going to uh, be anything Republicans could ever possibly get behind. And so they preemptively moderated their own views, moderated the views that they ran on, and pretended to believe in a public option, not because that's just where their heart lies, but because it just made them appear more moderate to the electorate. I don't have a lot of respect for that. I would much prefer somebody who just believes in a public option, who would be willing to stand up in front of a crowd and say, no, I think that it's great to have a public provider for certain things. I think that that's a great to create like a universal baseline for people. But then private options are, it makes the private sector more competitive, and that's good to have that innovation in the private sector, right? For somebody to believe in that wholeheartedly, I have a lot of respect for it. For somebody to pretend to believe in it in order to win an election, none whatsoever. But yeah, I just think even if you disagree with the examples I gave, this is a more detailed way of characterizing and breaking down the concept of centrism. So use this. Think about this before you call someone a centrist or call yourself a centrist in the future.